Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank my fellow panelists for really highlighting some of the efforts that are going on in Ethiopia, but also to thank most specifically the government of Ethiopia for the work that it has spearheaded, especially in terms of signing of the agreement for peace. Because I think that is where this is all coming from now. Of course, we know that the responsibility for protection of civilians and the protection of citizens is in the hands of government. And I think the Ethiopian government has done that as far as it's able to. So our role as UN, as civil society, is to support those efforts that government has put in place. We've heard about the programs that are in place, that are being hatched, that are being developed, and all this is intended to build a culture of peace. Indeed, a culture of peace is really fostering mutual understanding, and I think our colleague from UNESCO has mentioned this, and also from the Office of the Resident Coordinator. And it's also about resolving conflict in a peaceful manner. Conflict sometimes is inevitable, but the impact of conflict is avoidable. And I'm saying this because when conflict erupts, everybody is affected. And we also know that even at a community and household context, when there is family feuds, when there is fighting within the family, the whole society around, the community around is also affected. However, looking at the situation in Ethiopia as well, we might want to reflect on the geopolitical situations that we are dealing with in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is not in isolation in this conflict. We have the geopolitical influences that may have also fueled the conflict. We also have the concerns of the region when there is conflict. We all know that if there is conflict in Ethiopia, the African continent is shaking, and we all want to see peace. So in trying to cultivate a culture of peace, the UN and the African Union have signed a framework for peace and security. And the intention is to support member states to be able to resolve conflict peacefully. That's the main purpose. But it's also the purpose is also to ensure that the African continent can speak with one voice in tackling the conflicts that are in the continent or that occur in the continent. There is also another framework of cooperation. I know there are many, but the other one is on protection of women against conflict-related sexual violence. And I want to talk to these two from the point of the AU and the African Union, and the United Nations. When there is conflict, unfortunately, and this is not unique to any country in the continent, but it is clear that if there is no resolution of conflict peacefully, then there is unlikely to be sustainable peace. It's unlikely to have a culture of peace ingrained within the country. You can do any education, you can do mobilization of communities, but if a culture that is being proposed or that is being promoted does not promote peace, it's unlikely for you to have peace. And I'm saying this because there is need to respect human rights and social justice. And this starts from the household. In a society, unfortunately, that you find there's a lot of discrimination. When conflict erupts, who suffers most? It's women and girls. And in some situations, it's also the youth. who are caught up in that situation. Based on some of these frameworks that have been signed, I want to say that one of the things that has helped and has worked is diplomacy and good offices of the UN. I think we also, the Special Envoy, Horn of Africa, Madam Hannah Tete, being congratulated and acknowledged by the Prime Minister of Ethiopia for the role that she played in trying to navigate the situation and support government to bring about peace. And I think that's what we need to do ourselves. Peace is not only going to come from down up, but also from all directions. Let's all try to cultivate diplomacy in sorting out some of the challenges that we have, and I'm glad that some of the initiatives here point to that. In terms of women's participation, yes, we can say that we want to see more women participate in peace negotiations because they bring out, they bring in the key concerns of women and development. Women do not want to just be on the table to make noise. They actually want peace and development. They don't have guns, they don't have arms, but they can bring about peace and development. And I want to acknowledge the work that we've done with the African Union and the Office for Peace in acknowledging the work that was done by Ethiopian Mothers for Peace. At the time when we met these women, I think it was a time where we should have seen this as an early warning to the situation that erupted thereafter. These women canvassed the country, talking to the youth in universities, in communities to say, let us embrace peace. What they were doing as mothers was to try and cultivate a sense of a culture of peace. I want to say that in order for us to sustain peace that has been achieved so far, from the signing of the peace agreement, is to provide support to the victims of sexual violence. The conflict-related sexual violence, as I said earlier, is not unique to any country, but it's a condition that unfortunately could be avoided, but there are victims. And it's not for us to say who did this, but to see how we can support, we can help provide services, health services, psychological services, economic empowerment, for us to heal the souls of these people who have been affected. Because when you don't resolve that situation, it's unlikely that you will have sustainable peace. I would also like to say that we need to tap into the traditional means of conflict mediation. Africa has a lot of good practices that brought about peace in communities. We've seen that in Rwanda, it worked, and I'm very sure Ethiopia is not less of a culture of peace. We need to tap into that, we need to promote it, we need to enhance it, we need to enable our communities to embrace it, to be able to achieve sustainable peace. I could talk on and on and on, but I think from a regional perspective, there is a lot to learn. From the national level, there is a lot to learn. And we are not here to prescribe, but to support what the people of Ethiopia are doing and what the government of Ethiopia is trying to do to enhance peace in the country. Thank you very much.